What's up, man?
What up? What up?
How you doing?
Fantastic, dude. Happy Saturday.
Sunday?
Sunday. Happy Sunday. I'm a day behind. Sheesh, man. Feel like I'm in a
Me.
time warp right now the last few weeks.
Yeah, dude, there were so many days where I couldn't remember what day of the week it was or what.
Dude, the worst part is like I always start my conversations with like happy whatever day it is. And I'll always have like this moment of like panic before it comes out, like, oh shit, is that the right day? Like and then sure enough, man, you still know it happens. Sometimes I still
Oh,
fuck it up.
it happens to the best of us. Now, real quickly before we get into things, during quarantine, it seemed a lot of people went for growing the beard out, growing the mustache out. Now, you already had it, so did you just feel like everyone was just trying to follow your lead?
I think so, man. I think so, but I'm all right with it. I welcome them to the pack. I welcome them to the family. Welcome bearded brothers and sisters if you got a beard.
Now, how long does something like that take to grow out?
I've been working on this for about a year and a half, but I've trimmed it a few times. I have a real good barber in Lakeland who keeps it tidy for me. So it's been interesting since I left Lakeland to try to keep it like shaped and not too wily, because otherwise it's one of those where like once it gets to a certain length, it just like poofs out.
Yeah.
So it's like I can't be one of those guys, I got to keep it clean.
Have you been to the Strawberry Festival in Lakeland?
I haven't, but I've heard like numerous people talk about the strawberry and then the strawberry shortcake that's there apparently.
Uh-huh. The water tower that's painted like a strawberry.
Yeah, but
Incredible.
it sounds like you know about it, man. You been there or?
I've been there. I've been there. Not to the Strawberry Festival, but because I live like 2.5 hours south from Lakeland, so
Okay, where are you
um
at in Florida?
Marco Island,
Okay,
so south of
cool. Dude,
Naples on the Gulf side.
you'll have to get up for a match next season,
I
man. If
know, I
we, if
know.
we
I gotta come up and see.
yeah, dude.
All right, so just to get started, introduce yourself, your name, position that you play, and current club.
Sure. Yeah, my name's Rob Acosta. I play defender, and I currently play for the Florida Tropics in the Major Arena Soccer League.
I feel like everyone knew you were a defender. Like I've never seen someone not a defender that has the beard like that.
Comes with the territory, man. Shaved head, big beard, a little bit bigger.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so you're playing for those that don't know, you're playing indoor soccer. So it's a little bit different than the outdoor game. And we'll get into kind of your career switch to that and everything. But just to get started, talk about where you grew up. What did youth soccer look like for you? Because obviously you weren't playing just indoor soccer your entire career.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so I didn't even know about indoor soccer until I was probably like 21, 22. But so I grew up in Arizona, and of course in Arizona you don't need to play indoor; you can just play outdoor all year round. So I got started when I was 4. I played AYSO until I was about 7 or 8, and then I loved the game, and so I went ahead and my parents got me involved in club soccer. So I got into club and played a few years there. I was lucky enough at that point, I was a little bit bigger for my age, so I got to play with a couple older age groups. It was like 2 age groups up from me.
What age was that
So
you started playing up?
at age 9,
Okay.
yeah, 9, 10, yep. So yeah, man. So that was a huge blessing off the bat, man. Just getting to play against older, smarter, faster guys at a real young age. I mean, obviously, it kind of accelerated my growth. And then when I was about 13 or 14, Tucson had an actual soccer academy develop, which was like a little bit more organized club. So they ended up recruiting me over for my own age group. And so at that point, was it 14 or 15, I started playing with my own age.
As a center back?
And as a center back, yep. And it was funny, man. The way that I got in, the coach told me that the only reason he picked me at the tryout was because I wouldn't shut up. Like I was the only player like the center back that was out there commanding people, and he's like, you literally would not shut the heck up. And so we were like, all right, we'll teach this guy what he needs to know. Um, Dude, but that was a great time because that was probably one of the most talented teams I played on, and even at a young age, man. We were the '87 Tucson Soccer Academy, and at that age, we won the state cup. And then so pretty much all eyes were on us, man. So that opened the door for me to get into the Olympic development program. I know ODP is kind of big in some regions still. It isn't really as big in some
You're
regions, but
dating yourself a little bit by
I know,
talking
no
ODP.
doubt. But I know that there's a push. There's actually, I read something a couple days ago about the MLS making a push to start to reintegrate programs like that. So, but that was good for me too, man. I got, I was in Tucson, so there was a limited talent pool there. But Phoenix was about 2 hours away, and they have a massive talent pool, man. They have very talented players come out of there. And so, man, God bless my parents. They got me involved in ODP. So my mom would drive me up to Phoenix, every single weekend. And then during parts of the year, she'd drive me up multiple nights during the week as well. So 4 hours on the road total both ways. But it was a lot of fun. I played on a couple of really good club teams. My ODP team was fairly successful. And so, yeah, man, that was pretty much, we won a couple state titles, took runner up, went to regionals a couple times.
No big
So I
deal.
started getting scouted. Yeah. So I started getting scouted when I was about 16 or 17 to go to different colleges. And that was a whole different experience.
Yeah, yeah. Talking about that, what was your goals like high school age with soccer? Was it I want to go to college, I want to be a professional? Or was it I just am having fun being with the boys? What was kind of your mindset about soccer?
Yeah, I was all in, man. I wanted to play professionally. The vision was to get a to go to college, to have it pay for my college, and then to get a pro contract after that. So yeah, man, I was all in from a young age. I stopped playing other sports when I was 16 and was like, nope, this is gonna be it.
So then talk a little
So
bit, how did the recruiting process look like for university? Were you looking at a lot of different schools? How did you land on the one you chose?
yeah, it was interesting, man. So I ended up in small town Iowa, which was freaking crazy. So growing up, or so at about 15 to 18, I was talking to, there was a company that came into my club and they were like ambassadors to college. And so they put together a profile for us and put together videos and started sending them out to various colleges. And they were kind of like liaisons. And it was a hit, man. I was talking to a couple of schools. UC Irvine was at the forefront. I really wanted to go to Irvine. And so we had everything locked down. They're going to give me some financial money, at least the first couple of years, and then guaranteed full ride junior, senior year. And then it was the final recruiting tournament my senior year, man. It was in August. We were in California, and I was set to visit Irvine and finalize everything. And I had a big injury, tore a bunch of muscles in my hip. And so everything kind of dropped out. They're like, oh, well, we definitely can't give you money, until, maybe junior year. So I had a good amount of academic money lined up, but it wasn't going to cover, like, close the gap.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
so that fell through. So then I started reaching out to my, second, third, fourth choices, and they had already signed defenders. Everyone was willing to bring me in, but I would have had to foot my own bill. But sure enough, man, this small Division III college, Wartburg College from Waverly, Iowa, man, BFE, Iowa, a town of like 10,000 people. The college was like 2,000 kids. Like here I am, this big city boy from, Tucson, Arizona. And I remember the first few recruiting letters I got from Wartburg went straight into the trash, man. I didn't even open them. I was like, Waverly, Iowa? Nope.
Nope.
But then at that point, man, it was like, all right, well, let me reach out and see what they can do. And, the coach was thrilled and brought me in for a visit. And they lined me up with, academic money and a couple other monies to take care of things. And I mean, honestly, like, I was enthralled on my visit. I was enthralled. I was like, all right, I'm a little bit nervous, but this could be like a really cool experience. Like, it's a tight knit community. Everyone seems really close. So, all right, so I'll do it. So yeah, man, I signed with Wartburg College and ended up spending my next 3.5 years in BFE, Iowa. Small corner Iowa.
I remember my sister was looking at the school actually. So I remember going there when I was like 13, 12 years old. And I remember being like, huh,
Okay.
so this is Wartburg, huh?
Dude, that's awesome that you've been there, man. So you really know.
I know it. What was your offside of the soccer topic? What you experienced winter in Iowa, which is just beautiful, I'm sure, for someone from Arizona.
Dude, so I mean, I've got so many funny winter stories actually with different, because NASL runs in the winter time. So I'm into all these freaking, but it started with Iowa, dude. So I remember I went out there and the my parents had like bought me a sweatshirt and they were like, all right, I got a sweatshirt and I got some like thin gloves. I was like, all right, I should be set. And dude, we're like 3 weeks into the season. It's like October or something, and it hits like low 60s at a training session, and I'm like, no, 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 man, F that. I got my beanie on, my Under Armour, like everything that I've got, I go out there. And of course, it's Iowa, man, you got all these boys that are used to it, so they're all out there, shirts off, like,
Oh, this
getting
is
a
a
tan and
nice day.
stuff. Yeah, yeah, they pray for days like that. So I quickly gained the reputation of the Arizona boy, because anytime it dropped below about 65, there's me, bundled up. But yeah, dude, I hated it. I hated my first winter. Literally almost left college because I was
Oh,
like, this is
wow.
awful. I had a really rough experience my freshman year as far as soccer went. And plus it was cold and I didn't know, so it was like the perfect storm, but I'm glad I
Yeah,
persevered because
when you came in, were you getting much playing time? How did that freshman year look like soccer wise?
it was hit and miss. It was really hot and cold, and that was one of the issues that I had. Like I'd go in and I thought I was doing well and I didn't get playing time. And then I thought I wasn't doing well and all of a sudden I'm getting a bunch of playing time. And there were players that were playing over me that, I have upperclassmen are telling me that I'm better than, who really knows at that point if they're just gassing me up or. But yeah, man, there was a lot of up and downs with my coach freshman year. So yeah, man, it caused a lot of tension because I was like, look, man,
So
just tell me. If
yeah, so you're
there's something
thinking
you
of
need from me, just tell me.
you're thinking of transferring. What leads you to decide not to? What makes you kind of I guess essentially I would say maybe a turning point for your memories and everything and your time at Wartburg. What was the difference maker?
Honestly, the difference was I remember there was like a sequence of events. There was a couple things. One was I wasn't sure if I would be able to play the next season. If I did leave, there was a good chance I'd have to sit out for a year. And I was like, I don't really want to. And at that point, I got in, like a couple of the upperclassmen kind of took me under their wing and just really empathized with me and how I was feeling. And of course, at that point, then they were like some of the stars on the team. So, now I've got these upperclassmen that are just kind of reinforcing some positivity in me and saying, hey, you just got to grit through it. Remember, you're a freshman. Like while you're good and you're, these other guys are also good and they've been here longer than you. And they gave me the perspective that I needed, and they kept me, it wasn't that because the biggest thing was for a lot of it, I started to like doubt myself. It was like, well, shit, am I even that good? Am I even good enough? Like, am I even worthy? And so that was causing a bunch of mental confusion. But yeah, man, once I was able to kind of work through that and realize that it's just a development process and you got to pay your dues sometimes. And we were a very successful Division III school. Like we went to the Elite Eight my freshman year. And so it was like, I just had to pay my dues and suck it up and, have a good attitude about it.
Absolutely. The next 3 seasons, you move into a starting role. What does How does your football, soccer improve over those years?
Yeah. So the next 2 years, especially, it was, that's when the autonomy really started to hit for me. I was away from home freshman year. It's the first time away from home. You go a little crazy. You learn to calibrate, and so especially once I kind of learned to really just hone in and hey, this is my time. There's literally no one else holding me back. Like it's what I want to do with my time and my efforts and my energy.
Mhm.
So at that point, especially, I started doing just a lot more individual training. Now at that time, especially, I was getting into weight training and working out outside of soccer. So I'd only really worked out with the ball before, never really lifted weights, done speed and agility or anything like that. And so at that point, I started to lift some weights and I started to get stronger. So I was kind of a string bean. I shot up to about this height when I was about 15.
Jeez.
And I was like 150 to 160 pounds, just a light pull. So
Mhm.
at that point, I started to get stronger, and I started to like really turned into more of an athlete, which obviously that in itself has its benefits. Um, I would like to say that I focused more on skill development. If I could go back and give a piece of advice to myself at that, I know we'll talk about like giving advice to our past self, but at that point in my life, especially, man, I wish I would have spent a little bit more time with ball mastery and ball precision and things like that. But I feel like I developed as an athlete and got smarter about my body, and that's when. So I was majoring in fitness management. So that's like gym ownership and personal training and all that. So I started to implement it into my own life at that point, and started to see how it could better myself, not only physically but mentally and spiritually and all that too.
Absolutely.
And then the biggest transformation came my senior year. So we actually got a new head coach my senior year. So sophomore and junior year, it was kind of like, well, agree to disagree. Like our coach didn't dislike each other, but we knew that we weren't totally compatible. And so it wasn't the most beneficial environment for development. But senior year, I got a new coach. He actually completely changed my view of leadership. So the first thing he did when we came in was he had us read a couple books and articles. And basically it was the idea and the mentality that leaders serve from the bottom. And so little things like, man, our very first meeting, he was like, all right, because, in college, a lot of times it's like the seniors are like, all right, rookies, freshmen, you guys got to pick up all the shit, But he was like, I better not once see any of you guys say rookies or freshmen, you guys better pick up all that stuff. He's like, but watch, I guarantee you, after you do it once, you're never going to have to watch these guys do it again. They're going to fall in line and they're going to know their responsibility. And if you ever see somebody falling off, you set the example and you do the work and show them what needs to be done. And dude, that entire season, just that mentality. We went in, we had lost pretty much all of our key players. It was me and I think one or two other seniors that were really holding the team down. And other than that, it was all underclassmen. We were projected to get 7th in the conference that year. But we won the conference.
Oh, wow.
And it was all through, and it was just all through, me and the other leaders just reevaluating and resetting what leadership looked like. And then just putting in the work. So that was really cool. That was a pretty transformative time for me.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. That was very similar to my college coach's mentality. So like seniors and captains had to fill up the water bottles before training and bring the balls to and from the field because he wanted that servant leadership. And sounds real good. The first 3 years, incredible. Freshman, sophomore, junior year, you're like, all right, like don't have to do anything. But you do though see the benefits when from the top down, the guys are willing to do anything and not asking the guys from the bottom to do something they wouldn't do. So it does make a big difference on the team for sure. During that time, you're growing, obviously physically, you're growing in your soccer. Is professional soccer at all looking like this could be a realistic thing during your college time? Obviously it's a dream, but is it, do you have a plan? Is there looking like this might be a realistic thing that happens?
Honestly, man, there was never a moment of like, all right, here's the opportunity. Here's my chance. I remember, especially at that point, being young and at that age, it was you find open tryouts and you see what open tryouts you can go to, and so yeah, I remember at that point, I was pretty lost, to be honest, because a lot of my friends from different schools, their coaches had connection, like they could, hey, my coach knows this guy at so and so, or hey, my coach, so I'm going to this preseason. It's like, well, my coach didn't know anybody, and there was no one from my school that had gone to the next level, before me. So there wasn't really any resources. There wasn't really networks. So I was like, so I honestly didn't know, man. So coming out of college, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but
no, go ahead. You're good.
Yeah, so pretty much.
Hey, it's your story, man. You tell your story.
Yeah. So yeah, dude. So coming out of college, it was like, well, I graduated. I graduated early. Got done with, took care of business, and so I left. I could have been done in 3 years, but I wanted to stay for my senior year. So got done with that. Left in December. Moved back to Arizona, and just spent January after graduation, like, man, honestly, just fucking around. And like, I didn't have any direction. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't have, Tucson didn't have any soccer. Arizona didn't have any professional soccer at that point. So I was dating a girl, and
here
she
we
was
go.
looking to go. Yeah, dude, so it's crazy. So she was looking to go to school on the East Coast, and so we just started looking at different places. And she had some family in the Virginia area. I have some family kind of near there, and so we picked a spot and we moved out there. Her plan was to go to school, and my plan was to find a way into the soccer network. So I moved out there, and I moved to Norfolk, Virginia. And 2 days after I got there, there was a PDL game between the Virginia Beach Piranhas and the Yorktown, some other team. And so I went out and I watched them, and I was like, and I told my girlfriend, I was like, all right, well, whichever team wins, I'm going up to that coach. I'm going to ask them if I can at least like come out and train. They were like halfway through the PDL season.
Not the team that lost, because you're like, oh, they need help.
Yep. So sure enough, man, the team that won, I went up to the coach and I told him, I was like, or it was Williamsburg. Sorry, it was Williamsburg, the Legacy. And so I went up and I was like, hey, man, like I'm new to the area. I want to play soccer. I know you guys probably have a set roster, so can I come out and train with you guys just for the rest of the season? And he was like, yeah, man, I can't promise you a jersey, but if you want to train, come on out and train. After the very first training session, he came up to me and he was like, all right, dude, yeah, you can have a spot. We have our first game. We have a game on Saturday. Fill out this paperwork right now. We need to submit it. So that got me in, man. That got me into the PDL circuit. And then that team folded. So I went to the other team that I had watched that day, Virginia Beach Piranhas, for the next season. And I said, hey, I was with them, but now I'm here. And so sure enough, they invited me in. And so I spent the next couple years just in the PDL circuit, going to every USL or MLS tryout you can imagine. Anything that I could find to get my hands into, I was saving money and I was making money and I was going to it.
At any point in that, are you thinking, hey, maybe it's time to hang him up, like nothing's coming?
No, man. And in fact, so there was a conversation I had with a PDL coach at one point. It was my second year with Virginia, and I had a really open dialogue with my coaches. I'm always about like, how can I be better? Tell me how I looked in training this week. What do I need to do better? And I remember after the first week of training, I went to him and I said, hey, man, what do I need to do better? Like, what should be my focus this season? And his exact fucking words to me were, it's time to start thinking about a plan B in life. So I started thinking about what you're going to do outside of soccer.
Jeez.
And I almost lost it, dude. I moved out. I moved away from my family. I was working 40 hours a week at a Domino's Pizza so I could make enough money to fucking go and play on the soccer team. And so I was like, man, fuck that. Like, that's not my path. Like, I am going to make it, So yeah, dude, I played on that, and PDL was rough, man. I did what development I could as a player, but I mean, most players know, like, the level of coaching is not consistent at college and at PDL. You're not going to find, man, seeing and I only know this because I got to experience Brett Hall as a coach, and we can get into that much later because that's later on down the road. But once you experience what a real coach is and does and shows you about the game, it's like, fuck, man, where was that 10 years ago in my career,
Yeah.
But
I was blessed in PDL because I had, I don't know if you know him, Tony Keys, who's like legend in the Chicagoland area. He was my PDL coach. So it was like incredible because
So you were good, man.
Yeah, you either get like amazing coaches or you get like some assistant coach at this college that gets hired for the summer because he's going to live in whatever small town it is.
Dude, one of my years in PDL, I shit you not, we had the exact same training session, every single training session, the entire season. It didn't change. It didn't change, dude. It was the most basic shit. It was like a passing warm up from short, passing warm up from long, and then small sided and then playing, which is good to play. Well, what are you learning about the game at that point? Yeah. I learned nothing from a tactical standpoint at that point. But those years were really pivotal for me because that's when I started to apply my fitness, because I have a fitness brand, And so that's when I started to apply it to others, and I started getting into personal training. And through that, I met a couple of guys who put me into like speed training, because it's still at that point I'd started to get a little bit bigger, but I wasn't very strong, and I wasn't very fast. So luckily I met the right guys at that point in my career that put me into ladder work and speed and explosive work and agility work and things like that. So I spent that, those phases of my life starting to get faster and building muscle and becoming a better athlete.
Okay. So then what happens after that? We're in the PDL, we've been playing, we had a coach tell you, now us, I don't know why I'm saying us. I'm in this story together, man. But
Yeah,
telling you, start thinking plan B, what's next in life, and then what happens after that?
So then as far as soccer goes, so the next big thing was the ownership of that team. They bought a team in the MISL, the Major Indoor Soccer League. So they loved indoor soccer. Still at that point, I still wasn't really sure what indoor soccer was, but they're like, all right, so now we're going to own this PDL team, and we're going to own the Norfolk Sharks, which is the first pro team that I signed with. And so, man, it was another one of those, like, dude, for all the young people watching, like, dude, it's work ethic and it's value you bring to the table. Like, the owners liked me. They were like, Rob, we know how hard you work. We see, you've been doing the work, yada, yada. So, but the coach was not that interested in me. And so,
is it same coach?
No, so this was a different guy that they brought in. And his vision was to bring in veterans because they were an expansion team. So he really only wanted experienced guys. And I didn't know shit about the indoor soccer game. And to be honest, I really wasn't that great of a soccer player at that point. Looking back at that point, I was like, yeah, I'm the fucking shit. And I was pretty good, but there were guys that were a lot better than me at that point. But he brought me into training. So I would drive an hour to training, an hour home from training. And then I'd go to work at Domino's Pizza for 8 to 10 hours. Every single day for the first November, December, January, 4 months of the season, before I even had a contract. He's like, you can be on the training team. You can't even have a contract. So, but then finally on the signing deadline, February 5th, 2012, I get a call and he's like, hey man, all right, you're ready. You're ready, and we want to sign you before the deadline. So how do you feel about signing with the Sharks? Like, oh my God, yeah, dude, yeah!
You're like, well, I'm kind of busy with Domino's. Let me check with my manager.
Oh man, so that was cool, man. So they got me in, and I played in my first game, and I was like, yes, dude, I've made it. We're in. And then that team folded. So they had a bunch of financial hardships. They couldn't get enough of the community behind them. So they released all contracts and they folded. So I was like, well, fuck, man, now what? Mm-hmm. So I went back, and that was in March or April that they announced they were folding. So I got back to the PDL season, was playing PDL, and then they announced that they were going to have an indoor combine. So it was the MISL combine. So I went to the combine, and at that point I actually knew the indoor soccer game, and I fucking killed it at the combine. I made the all-star team there, and so I had 3 teams reach out to me and invite me into preseason. I opted to go with the Rochester Lancers at the time because I don't know how much you know about indoor soccer, but dude, the owner up in Rochester, Soccer Sam, is the most passionate man about soccer in this entire country. And he's got the business execution behind it. He wants to bring soccer to New York and to this country, and he fucking kills it. And so I was like, that's the guy I want to play for, But even still, dude, so that summer, while I was preparing I was like in and out of tryouts. I was in and out of the combine, training my ass off. And dude, I got injured. About a month before I was to report to Rochester, I did what I thought I pulled my groin muscles, but I was like, dude, I have to go and I have to perform, So I get up to Rochester, and a day into preseason camp there, I went to cut one time, and I just felt like the worst pop in my groin. And we didn't know at the time, but sure enough, found out a few months later there was a sports hernia. It was a pretty severe sports hernia. And I had pulled a bunch of the groin muscles completely off the hip. And then
Really?
because of that, I also pulled some of the ab muscles completely off the hip, off the pelvis. And so it was like a,
Lovely. Lovely.
yeah, dude. So needless to say, I couldn't really walk. I couldn't really train. And the coach and the owner, Rod, they were like, dude, sorry. Like, we know you're working hard and killing it, but, we can't have an injured player. You're a liability. And so you got to get this figured out. So yeah, man, I moved back home to Arizona, and had to figure out kind of the next phase from there, man. Spent 2 years back at home, living, working, making money. So I had to get surgery to get my hip repaired. But I didn't have health insurance and I didn't have any money because I was in between all these tryouts. I was, broke. And so, dude, I had to move in with my sister and brother-in-law, and I was working about 70 hours a week for a few months, and just grinding, man. So that was another cool thing.
Any
Go ahead.
point that you're just like, listen, like I tried it, cards aren't in my favor. I should move on to something else.
Dude, never, man. And really what it comes down to is I'm very faith filled. And so I spend a lot of time in prayer and meditation every day. And dude, I can't veer from the thought of this path and this purpose. And I've learned as I've gotten older that there's a greater purpose behind me having this path. It's a lot about how I can influence people and the other companies that I'm building in the process. But it doesn't, like, dude, when I pray about, God, like, fuck, just tell me and I'll throw the cards in, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, nope, 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 you're not done unless you want to be done. If you want to be done, you're done. It was like, well, I don't really want to be done. I love this game. Well, then go. So yeah, man. So it took a year and a half, but finally I saved up enough money, got the surgeries done. There was a whole there was a whole timing of events that were fucking crazy, but allowed it to happen. But finally, basically, long story short, 2 years later, I was finally healed, called up Rochester. They were like, yeah, dude, come on out. We're not going to guarantee a contract, but come on out. We'll see how you look. And then 2 days into preseason, they were like, all right, yeah, we're going to sign you. We're going to sign you. Let's go.
That's got
So
to be a good feeling after,
it was, dude. It was
full
like,
circle of having the contract, losing it, injury, have to do all this crazy work and rehab and everything, and then to come back and then to offer you a contract again.
no doubt, man. It was fulfilling, man, because the thing about it, I didn't have money at the time, so I couldn't afford to have rehab. I couldn't afford to have a trainer to get me through it all. So that's when I started to really, really learn about exercise sequencing, exercise periodization, proper nutrition for muscle growth and for recovery and for health. And that's when, at a younger age, I understood it all, but it was like a lot of like, do as I say, not as I do. And like, I know it, but I didn't necessarily do it. I know not to drink soda, but there I am pounding fucking 24-ounce Cokes during work, And so at that point in my life, it was like, all right, now I'm forced to, like, it's sink or swim, do or die. So I have to learn about it and I have to implement it, and I have to implement it perfectly. Otherwise, I'm going to miss my window of opportunity, and I did it. And it was like, man, when I signed that contract, it was like, fuck yeah, I did it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are you at that point, are you like, all right, I'm gonna sit in my indoor soccer career and ride that, or how are you still, because now you're doing a little bit of both? What is kind of your thought process with all that?
Yeah, dude, at that point, especially early in my career, the vision was, a lot of places that I kept going for these outdoor tryouts, the response was, whether or not they were bullshitting, was, you don't have enough experience, or we're going with this other guy that has more experience, or you did great, but we just heard this other guy doesn't have a contract, so we're going to bring him in. And if he doesn't pan out, we'll bring you back in. And it was like, so for me, it was like, all right, if I can just keep getting, if I can get an indoor contract, then they'll see, all right, now he's good enough, he's got experience, now he can go to outdoor.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thought process was still very much, all right, how can I use this to leverage an outdoor contract and the outdoor experience?
Absolutely.
And I thought for sure, especially being in Rochester that first year, I thought it'd be easy because they have the Lancers and then they have the Rhinos, the USL program.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out the ownerships didn't really go well. So the Rhinos ownership had zero interest in the Lancer players. but that's a whole other story. But yeah, man. So the dream was very much like, all right, now like indoors cool, but I want to play outdoors. So now how can I make that happen still? You know?
Yeah. So what's your next step after that? How do we get closer to where
All
you're
right.
at
So
today?
in Rochester, we got done with that season, and they folded. So they dealt
At
with the
some
owner.
point, do we have to think it's you? At some point, we got to
I'm like,
ask the
dude, am I the
question.
bad luck? What's going on? Am I the jinx? But yeah, dude. So crazy enough, like the health insurance changed, and so the owner went from paying 20,000 a year to having to pay 200,000 a year, and there was no guarantee that it wasn't going to continue to go up. Now the messed up thing is, being that he loved soccer, he was like, I disagree with this, but I'll give you $1 million right now for the next 5 years, and that if the premiums aren't going to go up, and that way it's done, it's taken care of. And they came back with, well, we can't guarantee that it won't go up again, so you might have to go up, you know. So he was like, no, if that's the case, I can't, you know, it's too much
Right.
money. So he folded. So I was like, all right, well, I didn't really have anywhere to go at the time. There was a competitive kind of semi-pro outdoor team in Rochester that summer, so I was playing there, and um, yeah, just hoping that the door would open up with the Rhinos or something. But actually, it turned out to be a huge blessing, because Rochester, New York, during the summertime is probably the coolest place I've ever lived, man. Like, I had a buddy whose parents' house was on Lake Ontario. So fuck, man, we would just like, dude, we would go down, like, especially during the summer, they would have parts of downtown closed off every night, and there would be live jazz festivals, live art festivals, you know, different music, wine, beer, you know. So it was a really, really, really
Sweet.
cool place. It's almost because of how much it sucks during the wintertime. They like overdo it during the summertime, and like it's a really cool time, you know.
It balances out to like a normal town over the
It
year,
does. It
but it's
does.
just
But yeah, man. So from there, end of the summer came around. I still really wasn't sure what was going on, but preseason camps were starting with other teams. And one of my best friends, who I played with in Rochester, he had gotten traded halfway through the season, and then he ended up with a new team in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. It was
back
another
to
expansion
Iowa.
team back to Iowa. So he called me up. He's like, Rob, I can't guarantee, but come out here. The coach is at least willing to look at you. Got out there, day into tryouts. Yep, we're gonna ink the deal. So the ink, you know. So then I was back to Iowa, baby. Um, so that was an interesting time. Um, spent, let's see, I played the first half of the games, and then halfway through the season, I got a call from my head coach, and he said, Rob, things are out of my control. I don't want to do this, but you've been released. You need to be out of team housing by the end of the week. This is on a Wednesday. You got to
And
be
you
out of team
had
housing.
no idea this is coming.
No idea it was coming. No idea.
Jeez.
Turns out 4 or 5 other guys got similar calls, and we still never really got a clear answer on like what was the criteria or what happened. But so I moved in with, luckily I knew some people in the area because that's where I went to college. So one of my best friends lived in Iowa City, about 45 minutes away. So I moved in with him, slept on his living room floor on an air mattress for about 4 or 5 months, when I was like, all right, well, what's next? Where do I go now? Where's the door going to open up? You know? And so waited it out. And that summer, one of the guys that I played with on the team in Cedar Rapids stepped into a coaching role. And so now he was going to be the head coach of that team. And he was also going to be the head coach of their outdoor UPSL team, which is kind of like PDL. It's just another outdoor semi-pro circuit.
Mm-hmm.
So he calls me up and he's like, hey, man, I know you had, you know, some bullshit with the ownership, but I'm the coach now, and I really want you to come and be my center back for outdoor and then be my defender for indoor.
And you're like,
Well,
I'm ready to get hurt again.
I guess this is what I'm doing. So I did it, which was cool, man. He's a really good coach. I actually learned I learned a pretty good amount from him. So I had a good time. So yeah, played the summer, played the next indoor season, and then after that season, he moved from Cedar Rapids to St. Louis as the coach. And so that was the summer that I spent with Bridges. So yeah, so that year, dude, we'll segue to outdoor, man. So I was still like just pounding, like, dude, I was reaching out to agents. I was still going to tryouts. And I met this guy in Cedar Rapids that was like, hey, there's this agency in Chicago called Bridges. It's like, I know the guy. Why don't you just go out there and see what they can do for you? And so sure enough, man. So that's as soon as indoor season ended, I was dating a girl at the time in Chicago. So I was able to like go out and stay with her and go to Bridges and, you know, so that way at least I had somewhere to stay. Cause that's what Brett told me. He's like, as long as you got somewhere to stay, dude, you can train with us as much as you want to. So yeah, man. So through March and April was making those commutes. And then May and June, we were they invited me to go on the trip to Denmark. And so at that point, I opted to move into the team apartment for Bridges. And that year when I moved in, bro, it's a 2-bedroom apartment. There's a living room, bedroom, and another bedroom. Well, Brett Hall also, the director, also lives in there. So he got that bedroom to himself. So this bedroom and this living room. When I got there was 2 other guys in the bedroom. It was me and 2 other guys. We had 2 bunk beds. It was no problem. 4 people could sleep in there. Well, within a couple of days, that bunk was full. And then another couple of days, there was 2 mattresses in the living room. And the next week, there was 2 more mattresses in the living room. And slowly, so then pretty soon, dude, with like the last 2 weeks before we left for Denmark, there was 11 guys living in that 2-bedroom apartment.
Oh my goodness. Who was cool, man.
Who was like, dude, like, it's just this melting pot of players that just have this dream and have been fighting and scratching, you know, clawing and tooth and nail and man, we'd wake up and we'd train 2 hours in the morning and then we'd have lunch. We'd do like technical in the morning and lunch and then playing in the afternoon. And dude, it was an unforgettable time, man. Like people would not want to live in those conditions for the most part, but dude, like that bond that we formed and just the grind that we went through together. And there was a very memorable month right before we left for Denmark. So yeah, dude, that was really cool. And then honestly, I had a really cool, a couple of the nights that I was in Denmark before I went to the team that I got signed with. Brett would always stay up in the evening times and journal, and he would always like reflect on his day and journal on whatever was happening. And so a couple of nights I went down and just had some conversation with him. That's one of the deepest, most profound dudes that I've ever met. And he's got a crazy story. And so a lot of my good memories are sitting with him at 11 o'clock at night in Denmark, just listening to how he grew up or what kind of experiences he had and the cancer that he went through. And so, yeah, good time.
Yeah. He's a wealth of knowledge. Absolutely.
Yep. So yeah, man. So from there, Denmark was great, dude. Again, like I never really knew what real coaching was, or I knew what real coaching was, but I gained an especially, appreciation for it after working with Brett, because especially those couple weeks in Denmark, the planning, because we're playing against Danish premier first and second division teams, and we're just 20 Americans that just met each other that are trying to get pro contracts, so like it wasn't about going out and being better than them. It was going out and having a strategy and executing that strategy. And dude, we did, dude. Like we took we took Nordsjælland to a draw. We beat a couple of teams. Like it was a great experience. So like sitting there, he has his Chinese checkers pieces, with red and black chips, and he's always just sitting there. All right, and then when he goes here, we go here, and then when he goes here, we go here. It's like, oh, dude, like, yeah, it was great. It was great. So yeah, man, had a good few weeks there. Ended up signing with a team in Sweden. So went there and spent the last 3 months that I was over there in a small town in Sweden. Beautiful, beautiful area. I'll never forget that time, man. That was great.
And that's when I first heard about you, because I'm friends with Matt DeKreiger, and I saw the pancake video, which to this day is one of my favorite videos I have seen. Those pancakes were incredible.
Dude, we just had so much time. Like when you got nothing to do, we only had a certain amount of internet at our house, so we would try to like use it sparingly. But in the last 2 weeks, we'd have no internet. So we would literally wake up and have nothing to do until team training at 4 o'clock. So it was like, well, let's go out and, do 2-touch. And then after a while, I was like, all right, let's see how many pancakes in a row we can get. Yeah, it just went from there.
It was incredible. But so now you're over in Europe, you're playing outdoor. So obviously like that is a dream that you wanted. And then you go back to the US. Are you thinking at that point, I want to go back to Europe? It was a fun adventure. I want to stay in the US. Kind of what's your thought process going into the off season?
So still at that point, it was, all right, so now that I've got this on my resume, there's not a single USL team that can say no. Like I got into the indoor league, I got into this league, like I'm improving my work, So it was like a matter of, all right, so now what's going to be my next steps there? But when I was there in Sweden, that's when I found out that my coach from Cedar Rapids had gone to St. Louis, and we had a conversation, and he expressed that he wanted me to come down, and I knew his system, and he knew that I was going to be a free agent, and so we had the conversation about me going back to play for him. And part of the conversation was, I told him, hey, but I'm still in pursuit of a USL contract here in the States. Like I want that, just what I want,
Mm-hmm.
And so part of the thing was, all right, well, I know this coach and that coach, and so come play indoor for me, and I'll talk to these coaches after the season for you. Nothing like that ended up materializing, which is tough. So I came back to the States, played in St. Louis. We had the worst team in the league. We were like 3-19, but I got defender of the year in the league. So even on the worst team, like I had the most amount of blocks in the league, and then I was voted on as numero uno. So I was like, all right, now that I got that, there's not a single team that could say no, right? Like I'm the best. And sure enough, man, like the coach that he knew didn't need a center back at the time. And then the coach in St. Louis, I had 2 agents reach out to him, and all we could get back was, oh, thank you for the interest. We're pretty set with defenders, but if the spot ever opens up, we'll give him a call. What's his phone number? I emailed back a couple times, like, hey, in case, just want to remind you I'm here. Like, I'm happy to come out and just train, just be a training dummy. I'll stand in the wall, like whatever. And still couldn't get anything. So at that point, I just kept playing, so now for outdoor, I continue to play on, I played for a UPSL team there, and then last summer I played for a UPSL team in Denver, and this summer I'm not sure what's going to happen, but so I just continued pursuing indoor as aggressively as I could. So got defender of the year, played another year in St. Louis, had a good time, and then my contract expired, and I got an offer from the Florida Tropics. So it was really exciting, man, because I got done with my season in St. Louis. I wasn't sure if they were going to re-sign me. I wasn't sure anything that was happening. Ownership was interested, but I wasn't really hearing much from the coaching staff. So just out of the blue, I got a call so I sent a message to Florida, Milwaukee, and Baltimore and just said, hey, I'm a free agent. Are you guys looking for a defender? I just, spoke a little love into him, whatever. And then I got a message back from Clay Roberts at Florida. He's like, hey, what's it going to take to get you here? And yeah, so then we negotiated, and I ended up there. Man, this has been last season. I'm sure you saw a little bit, but man, we were the best team in the Eastern Division. We were undefeated for a good chunk of the season. We were poised to play very, very well. And it was one of those where it was like reflecting all year. Dude, it was me and a couple of guys. Like I played with a guy that I played with in Norfolk, and I played with a guy from St. Louis, and it was like we're all sitting there like, dude, we've all just hit the jackpot. Like, we all play in these shitty conditions, shitty teams, shitty ownerships, everything, all these issues. And now all of a sudden, here we are in Florida in December. We're the best team in the league. It's 70 degrees outside, and we're all doing well. Like, is it too good to be true?
we finally made it.
All right,
so you are in Florida. You guys are doing well. I like this point because now it finally starts to feel like you're hit like I don't want to say like coast part. That's not the right word, but like consistency, that it's not like, Am I going to have a team? Am I not? Is this team going to be around? Is it not? All of that. It seems like it's finally like, all right, I'm at a place where I can, you know, be confident where I'm at.
100%, man. And it's funny, dude. Like I had like that was one of the things that I loved about Soccer Sam was he promoted that like players can perform so much better when they're secure. When they're secure in knowing they're going to make some money, when they're secure in knowing the team's around, that the ownership supports them, and it's absolutely right. Like I'm a senior player at this point. I'm 7 years into my career. So, but I had a conversation with Clay. Again, I still have these conversations with coaches. So I had a conversation with him about 3 weeks into preseason. I said, all right, man, now that you've seen me, what is it that I can continue to work on this year? And his comment to me was, Rob, it's just incredible for me to see a senior player continuing to grow and continuing to get better. It's like most guys at years 5, 6, 7, they've reached their peak and they start to get a little complacent. He's like, but dude, in the last 3 weeks, you're getting sharper, you're getting smarter, your execution is improving, and all this. And I got to reflect, and I was like, literally, it's just because for the first time in my career, I'm on salary. Most indoor contracts are per game. So you're only getting paid if you're playing in the game. So it's like, am I even going to make money this week? All this training this week, am I even going to get paid for it? So for the first time in my career, I'm on salary. My housing is guaranteed. I know that the ownership is incredible there, man. He invested into a whole new front office. And so you know that the vision and the direction is there. And now you just have to bring your pizzazz and your piece to the puzzle. So yeah, man, it was great, dude. It was incredible soccer culture. I was able to get into the community quite a bit, which is my passion at this point. So yeah, I'm excited to get back there. We should be reporting back in October if everything goes well.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it seems from what I've seen from afar that it's been a good fit for you, and it's finally like found a home almost after having to move around so much in your career, which is always a great thing, because most of football is so nomadic. So having a little
Yes,
consistency is nice.
no doubt, man.
So you're still playing some in the summer times. You've been doing some leagues. What's kind of your thought process with the outdoor? Do you use it to kind of just stay ready for the indoor? From the outside, it kind of looks to me like the indoor is your biggest focus. I don't know if that's true or not, but that to me kind of feels that way.
Sure. So my big thing, especially over the last couple of years, which is cool because it's become an integral part of my brand, is just control your controllables. So I still have a vision of getting, I'm 33 years old, but I still have a vision of getting a USL contract at some point. So much so that as soon as I moved back when COVID hit and I left Florida, it was because I had some family stuff to deal with. So I want to come back and be present for that. But the first thing that I did as soon as I got here was I went to the website and to the roster, and I sent a message and I saw, because they have all their Instagram links for all the players, and I sent a message to every single player. I said, hey, I'm Rob Acosta, I play in the indoor league. I'll be around for the summer. I'm not asking you to get me out to the team for a contract. I literally just need someone to do 1v1s with. I play defender, and I need to go at people, and I'm just looking for anyone to work out with. So here's my footwork videos, check them out. Like if we can ever train together, let me know. I'll come to a park close to your house or something. And literally same message to every single player, man, just boom, 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 boom. Well, I heard back from 5 of them, and at that point, they were all under strict rules from Phoenix Rising to not, they couldn't even go outside of their team housing. They had to be inside all the time. But one of the guys was like, oh yeah, when we're allowed to train with other people again, you're a beast. I want you to teach me some ladder drills. So it hasn't happened yet, but I've still got the vision that if I'm going to control what I can control, and that's my training habits, my nutrition habits, my time spent on a ball each day, and whether that pays off as more success in indoor, which is what I'm garnering, or whether it finally slams that door open for an outdoor career, that's out of my control. But in my control is how much work I put in the meantime.
I love it. I think too, listening to you talk, something that's maybe different than a lot of players maybe in the same situation is the humility it takes for that, right? Like it sounds good to everyone, like, oh, and then I messaged every player and this and that, but like you're not 19 doing it. Like you're a man, and yet you're still humble enough to be like, hey, come train with me one-on-one, work with me, as well as you're asking coaches at your age, how can I improve? How can I get better? Where most players at that age are kind of like, no, I've been here. This is my 7th year. Like I'm the top dog. Like I know what to do. I'm gonna just yell at the young guys and what to do. And instead, your mindset's like a growth mindset, which I think ego gets in the way of the growth mindset a lot. So to hear you talk that way, I think is very cool, but also unique circumstance, you know?
I appreciate that, man. And you're right, dude. Like, and that's one of the things that I see from other players. I never want to be stagnant. And the habits that I've developed and garnered in soccer are pay off in all the other areas of my life. And so soccer is just the easiest for me to control because I love it so much. So yeah, man, I don't think there's, I fear the day where I'm like, all right, I'm good enough. I'm not going to get any better. You know, I fear that day. I don't think it'll ever come, honestly.
Yeah, what fun would that be, right? So you've been talking a little bit about your brand. For those who don't know, hopefully I'll link your Instagram and they can check out all your videos and stuff. I like watching them. Talk a little bit about how that's growing, how that's helped with soccer, how that's helped you, you know, also for kind of a plan B, so to speak, when football is no longer in your life. You have something else growing now.
Yeah. So yeah, man, it's been cool. It's, you know, about four is when I was living in Cedar Rapids. It was actually the time that I had been released. I was sleeping on an air mattress in my buddy's living room, and I was out doing my normal training, and I just started making video. I made a video of myself, and it was kind of a fun process. And I posted it, and I got some really good responses, like, "Oh, that's a cool drill," or whatever it was. And so I was like, "Oh, cool. I'm gonna keep doing that." And then you know, I just it started to grow a little bit, and all of a sudden I started getting more followers, and then guys were asking questions, and so yeah, man. And then at a certain point, I met a guy who builds mobile applications, and so he was like, "Well, what if I build you a mobile application?" I was like, "Well, I don't have any money, so that's cool." But and he saw my work ethic. I've been working with his kids for a while, so he was like, "Honestly, we'll talk money later on down the road once you're making money. Like, for now, I just want to give you tools and platform." So at that point, it was like, all right, well, maybe I can like make a business out of this or make a brand out of this, you know? And at that point, it was still like very much like Acosta Fitness. And so then I put together a website, and I started working with people online, and and then I started getting involved with different youth clubs as like the speed, strength, and agility coordinator. And then like in those, and so I loved running those sessions, but then in those sessions, I also loved like the mental coaching, like teaching these kids that, you know, immediate gratification isn't a thing, and repetition and all this. And so like, I got used to like talking to kids, like young players, about like full picture health and athleticism and all this. And I'm like, well, you know, and then it just started to light my fire. I fell in love with it. And then you know, more people started coming to me for exercises. And so, it's really been the last year that I've started to like really develop the body of the brand and what it really is. And so, yeah, man, it's multi-part for me. For one, as a young player, I didn't have some of the tools that I needed. I didn't have workouts. I didn't have nutrition tips. I didn't have things like that. Two, if there was access to it, I couldn't afford it. You know, my family was already paying for what they could. You know, I had to pay for everything that I could from when I was 16. So like my money was spent on car insurance, gas to get from school, stuff like that. And so I didn't have money. So now I want to be able to provide resources to the same kid that don't have as much money or don't have the resources, you know. And then, but also like after soccer is done, I'm going to need, you know, something to suffice in some way to keep interacting with the next generations in a way to maintain my platform, my influence. So yeah, man, so we started to build it. And so now launching in, there's a mobile application that is in beta. I've got a group of testers right now, and it'll go fully live this week. I got my apparel line, which went live on my website yesterday. And basically it's my attempt to create a brand that allows people to stay in touch with their vision and their direction, not just, put on a shirt and now you're Nike. Like for me, it's walk the talk. And with every shirt or with each part of the brand, you get a tag that forces you to sit down and focus on your why. What are you working toward? What's the vision? What's the direction? And so the vision is just to, now every time, so I got my why up on the wall. So now every time I put it on my shirt, now I'm like thinking about my why and I'm thinking about what it is I'm working towards. So now it's a lot more symbolic. And so I just want to give people tools and resources to stay aligned, stay motivated and develop the discipline. And so that's what my brand's going to be about, man.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see how it goes with all the release and the application and everything like that. I really like that you were talking about the why. I tell my players with that is why is the most important question that you can ask in any situation, whether that's in life or whether that's, talking specifically to sports. Why are you doing something? What's the meaning behind it? What is the coach trying to do if it's, on the field? Why am I doing it? What is my passion for this, right? Because if you don't know, yeah, maybe you're motivated for a week, a month, a year, but it's not going to get you 70 hours of working dominoes, this club folding, that club folding, if you don't have a why. Like it especially in soccer, it is so much of a grind. And that's why I love a story like yours. Like, it's not like, oh, I grinded for a year and then everything worked out and it was sunshine and rainbows. Like, it was continually a grind after grind after grind. And yet you kept going, right? That's why I was asking, like, oh, any thoughts of quitting? Because you have that why. So that doesn't come in as I need to give up. Instead, this is what motivates me and this is the reasoning behind it. So I really like that you spoke on that specifically.
I love it, man. That was one of the most life-changing things for me. When I was in Rochester, I sat with a buddy of mine, and he's a big Tony Robbins guy. And Tony Robbins talks about he actually has this course where you peel back your why. So it starts off as, well, why are you training this morning? It's like, oh, because I want to be a better soccer player. Well, why do you want to be a better soccer player? Oh, because I'd like to get a pro contract. Well, why do you want to get a pro contract? It's like, oh shit, man. Like once you really peel back and answer that why 4, 5, 6, 7 times, then you can get started. And until then, it's like if you're just going out because you want to be a better player, that's not it. Why do you want to be a better player? Why does a pro contract mean so much to you? For me, a lot of it has to deal with family and some of my upbringing and things like that. I won't get too much into it because it's kind of personal. But it's knowing more than I want to be the best player or I want to play for this pro team. It's like why? Keep asking yourself. And when you can't ask yourself anymore, ask yourself one more time, and it's probably going to lead you to a good place.
Yeah. Now it's scary to actually be that self-honest with yourself. It's a scary moment when you actually are honest with it.
You got to get vulnerable, man. And then you got to think about what happens if you don't, what is your why? Like for me, once you tap into that why, all right, well, now what happens if you don't do this action? Oh shit, that why never gets accomplished. And it's my life, and that's what I'm here for. We're only here for one, that we know of. We get one try, So it's like,
yeah,
you gotta spend the time to self-explore.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really appreciate you talking about that. So, Bridges guys, we like to ask every guy what would be their 5-a-side indoor team if they could choose their ultimate team. So I'm curious to hear yours. Obviously, yours is probably built around your summer trip, but excited to hear it.
I had a really, really, really hard time with this because, man, we had some ballers on my trip, dude. We had some really talented players, and especially the players that didn't get the year that I went. We had a bunch of college guys that couldn't get signed. They were just there for training purposes, and so I want to throw them in the mix, because they're ballers. But yeah, all right. So I got my 5, and I had to go through this multiple times. All right, is this on there? Is that on? All right, no, I can't go with him. And a couple of it, one of the guys actually wasn't even on the trip, but so I'll just go through it. So Sean Toch, he wasn't even on our trip, but I know who he is from indoor. And then Brett actually took us down to Louisville, and we got to meet him. Dude's a fucking stud.
Yeah.
So you got Sean Toch, X Gomez. I'm sure everyone knows him. Simon Magali, Phil Fives, and Aaron Wiley.
Okay.
That's my 5.
That's your 5.
I do know. What five do you know from there? Do you know those names?
Yeah, yeah, that I
Okay.
know. I've been,
Uh,
when did I first get connected with Bridges? Was that 2011? So it's been,
oh shit. So you've known him for a minute, huh?
yeah.
Dude,
So I know like I came in right at the maybe a year or two overlap of like the original like Bridges squad and then seeing how it's changed over the years.
that's so cool,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, it's dude, there's some really good players that have gone through there. It was one of those things where I wish that when I moved away from like when I moved to Virginia, I wish I had ended up somewhere closer to Chicago because if I had hit that was like the biggest challenge when I got to Bridges was I was 28 or 29. And so Jeff and Brett were pretty upfront with me. They're like, look, dude, like you're well past the age that most clubs are looking for. So this is going to be a challenge. And it was like one of those, if you had found us, 6, 7, 8 years ago, you're a fucking shoe-in. Like, but
Hmm.
these are the cards we're dealt. And so this is what we got to do with. So that's one of the things where I wish that I had found Bridges a lot sooner. But I'm just grateful that I found him in the long run.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to make a name for yourself when you're an older player without the experience. Unfortunately, that's the reality of it.
It is.
But
But
yeah, no,
it's never
Bridges
over,
is
man.
incredible.
Yeah, but that's the biggest message I have to players. Like a lot of, like, that's one of the reasons that walk the talk is like my slogan is, in much of my early 20s, I knew what I should be doing, but I wasn't fully aligned. Like I was busting my ass, man. I was busting my ass. I was working, I was training, but little things like not, not to drink soda, not to, go out and booze on the weekend, especially after a hard week of training. It was like a lot of like little habits in my early 20s. I wasn't walking the talk. But then when I got injured and I was forced to reassess and reevaluate, and then back into Rochester was like my second chance. At that point it was like I was much more. My actions were much more aligned with my words, and so that's when the success started to come, man. So for the young guys especially, don't be like me and don't wait that long. But just know that as soon as you take that step and you decide that that's your identity and that you're going to walk the talk and you put those habits into place, it's not too late, man. You can make it
Hmm.
happen.
Yeah, and I think too, like speaking to that with like the 1% differences, like players like, oh, but I do 80%, like it's fine. And then you're like, yeah, but do you realize like there's a lot of players that can do 80%. That's not difficult to find a player. It's the player that's willing to do those little extra that might only be a 1% difference, but added up over 20 areas makes them a much more desirable and complete player than you sitting at 80%, not really buying into fully, putting in the work for it.
Yep. Dude,
So,
I mean, I made a post about it on my social media the other day, man. The difference between 100 touches a day. So, like, someone like, a real focused player is going to get those extra 100 touches. 100 touches a day is, what is it? If you're training 5 days a week, it's 500 touches a week. It's 2,000 touches a month. That's 24,000 touches a year. So now, if you think about 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 4 years, like you're talking hundreds of thousands of touches, is the difference between that top level player and that player just behind him that wants to be there.
100%. Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, Talking a little bit, you're 33 now. If you could go back to 15-year-old you playing in Arizona before you knew what cold weather was, what advice would you give yourself, soccer related?
Man, I had to think on that too, and I think one of the biggest things is focus on nutrition a lot more. Not just what, but why. So I remember like at that point it was, coaches tell you like, oh, drink Gatorade after practice or eat pasta for 2 days beforehand. And little principles like that are cool, but like you have to really learn like what food is and what it's doing in the body. Um, when I started focusing on that, that's when I actually started to put on muscle. That's when I started to actually, my coordination improved. Like as much training as I do, all of my growth has come from my nutrition habits and what I've learned to put in my body. So yes, learn what you're eating, learn what carbs, proteins, and fats are, and why, and like micronutrients too, and why you need them. Because like if you can learn that early on, it's going to help you get in really, really, really good habits at 15, 16, 17, so that you've already got them in play, so you don't have to worry about relearning them when you're 25, 26, 27. So there's that, and then spend more time on a ball. So I already thought I was spending a lot of time on a ball, and I was like, I don't need to spend more time. I'm spending plenty of time on a ball. You can all spend more. Like, man, I'll never forget when I was in Norfolk, and I was like, I went in like, oh yeah, like thinking like having a lot of pride in how much ball work I did and how much time I spent. Man, there's just these guys that, dude, there's two guys in particular that just lived with the ball. Man, like they were there before training, after training. We would go over to their apartment, after, a couple hours after practice, and they were out playing football-y. We, in the evening, we'd go to the park to be casual, and they'd bring a soccer ball, and they always were getting touches. So whether it's formal or informal, just get on a ball more.
I like it. I was hoping that you're going to say, don't ever shave, grow a beard, but I guess those are helpful things too.
Also that, once the beard starts, don't stop it.
I like it. You worked at Domino's. What can you stomach Domino's now? I'm sure you ate a lot of it at that time. I know your nutrition, you eat healthy now, but do you still enjoy Domino's?
Dude, I could eat Domino's anytime, any place. Dude, I don't know what it is, man. And yeah, dude, especially when I worked there, I'd eat a stuffed cheesy bread right when I got to work. And then at the end of work, I'd eat either a whole pizza or a couple oven-baked sandwiches or whatever. And I mean, that goes into one of those things where, like, I knew I shouldn't be doing that, but it's so delicious. So I have to.
What's your go-to pizza order from Domino's?
Go-to pizza order. It's a large pepperoni and sausage pizza with banana peppers on half and black olives on the other half. And then a stuffed cheesy bread, but I try to get them to customize it. Because when I worked there, I used to put pepperoni and pineapple inside of the stuffed cheesy bread. So I always make that note on the like when you can like order online and put a note. If you can, put pepperoni and pineapple inside stuffed cheesy bread. It's worked for me twice out of a lot of times. So, but that's it. Stuffed cheesy bread and pizza.
I like it. I'm on a kick right now. If I do get pizza, it's pineapple and blue cheese, and it is incredible.
Okay. All right.
I thought it was weird before I tried it. I was like, no way is this good, but I promise you, it tastes amazing. And I don't usually like pineapple on pizza, so I know it's controversial, but there it is.
I respect it, dude. I like it.
Obviously we've talked about what you're doing outside of soccer with your fitness, all of that. What right now is kind of you train a lot, you do a lot of things. What aspect of training do you enjoy the most? Is there a specific program right now that you're just really enjoying doing, or some type of training aspect that you're really enjoying right now?
There's two things that really light my fire as far as the training goes. And actually it's been interesting because during quarantine, I had to kind of reevaluate. So one of the things that I freaking love is like heavy explosive weightlifting that applies to sport. So like power cleans, hang cleans, things like that you can convert to like real high strength. I didn't do those most of my life. And that was one of those things that I picked up when I was like 25, 26, and just seeing the gains that you can make from that. I love it. I love that. But then the main thing that is like my niche in training that you see all over my page is ladder and cone work. Man, I see a ladder and I see cones, and I come up with different combinations, and for whatever reason, man, it's just one of those things that just lights me on fire, man. I get excited. Like I go out to the field. I don't even have it drawn out most of the time. I go out to the field with my ladder and my cones, and I'm like, all right, this sounds cool. We're going to do this. And I start putting it there, and sure enough, like I think of how it applies. And so I love those two elements through and through. But the biggest change that I started to appreciate during quarantine is, you ever done like EMOM workouts or Tabata workouts? Yeah. So like timed workouts, so like every minute on the minute, like having 4 exercises that you rotate between for 20 minutes. Dude, those workouts are killer, man. And like now that I'm back to
it's brutal.
Dude, I may never do a non-EMOM workout again. I'm like, yo, these things are like killer,
Mm-hmm.
So I've been loving those the last few weeks.
Now, celebrities sometimes have been accused of Photoshop on photos. Have you ever done a ladder and then sped up the speed of it a little bit on the computer?
Dude, really good question. Never once.
Okay,
Never once.
purist, a purist.
Never once. And I never will. I'll always slow it down so people can see what I'm doing. But I mean, let's be real. I don't have to speed it up. It already looks fast enough, you know? Like it
See,
already
my
is
thing,
fast enough.
if you're not fast enough, don't try to speed it up because that's usually obvious. Slow it down to slow motion. No one knows how fast you're actually going anyways.
Dude, I always love it. I always try to time it so that there's somebody like walking behind me, or like I love it when a bird flies through the picture because then it's like it's validated. It's like, all right, look at them moving and then look at me moving. Like, so if I can get like the more that I can post those ones, it's like it validates me a little.
Now, my favorite one that I took from you is the explosiveness from when you're on your knees and then exploding up to your feet. I really enjoy that one. I'll be honest. I stole that a couple years ago from you, back before when my knee could handle it. But
I love that, dude. That's one of those too that, man, there's like a lot of people look at exercise and they think about like just muscles and joints and stuff, but a lot of it is associating the mind to muscle connection. And so that one's just really good for like having the brain tell the body to move really fast. And like if it
hmm
can move from the knees really fast and get you to a like standing position, it can move it in all kinds of other ways too. So that's cool if that's a one you picked up from me. I like knowing that.
I like it. Now, obviously, talking nutrition, you said 15-year-old self, wish you could have told yourself that. Right now, I'm gonna ask two questions. Your first, what's your go-to healthy meal?
Ooh, that's a tough choice, man. Go to healthy meal. I'm basic, man. I'm super basic. Especially like during season, I meal prep a lot because I'm like, you know.
Yeah.
So I have my little meal prep containers and I'll do 200 grams of rice, 6 ounces of chicken, and then some kind of vegetable, generally like broccoli or something. And so I'll have like 5 or 6 nights of that prepped. But my trick is Monday night is barbecue sauce. Tuesday night is taco seasoning. Wednesday night is Cajun seasoning. Thursday night, so each night, I'm essentially eating the same because, one week I'll do brown rice, chicken, and broccoli. The next week I'll do quinoa, ground beef, and, whatever
hmm
else, with carrots or something. So essentially the same thing every night, but just different flavorings.
I like it. Now,
Yeah.
okay, so that's your healthy. What's your go-to? Do you do like, are you one of those that just every once in a while you eat unhealthy? This day you have a cheat meal. What do you do? What's your program for junk food?
I used to do when I'm living on my own, I'll set aside like Sundays. Sundays I'll just do what I'm feeling. So if I feel like eating healthy, I'll eat healthy. But most of the time, if I feel like smashing a pizza, I'll smash a pizza. Um, but since I've been home, it's been interesting. This is the first time that I've really lived around my family in my adulthood. Every time I've been home before, it's been maybe for like 5 or 6 days at a time. And what I found out is that families have a lot of get-togethers. And what they like to do with these get-togethers is eat shitty food. So now I don't necessarily plan out cheat meals, but I make sure that I'm in line with my eating on a regular basis so that when, like tonight, I'm headed over to my sister's house to do pizza and a movie with her kids. So it's like I don't have to feel restricted when I get together with my family on the weekends. Um, but yeah, I just make sure that everything else leading up to that is super, super balanced and aligned.
What movie you guys watching?
Dude, I don't know what we're gonna watch, but last time we watched Onward,
Okay.
and that was awesome. Have you seen that or heard of it?
No, don't know about it.
Yeah, man, it's a Disney movie. It might have made me tear up. It's about a kid who loses his dad, or a kid and his
Okay.
brother lose their dad, and they get a chance to spend a day with him. And dude, it's a really good movie, really, really cool movie. Disney
Oh
kills it, man,
man,
because
dude,
yeah,
they
dude,
bring
because they
tears to my eyes. Oh yeah.
dude, they make it, and like it's adult funny. Like it's funny sitting with 5-year-olds who like they're laughing when someone slips and falls, but there's like all these like like hidden jokes within the storyline that it's like, all right, that's fucking funny. All right, that's an adult joke right there. The kids don't get it, but that's really funny.
Oh yeah. I feel like there's so many like movies and TV shows I watched as a kid, and then like I watch it now and I'm like, Oh my gosh, I had no idea
Right?
what was going on.
Some of those songs that I like, some of the songs from back in the day, it's like, what was I singing? You know?
Incredible. All right, so it's Onward is the movie.
That's what we watched last time. I'm not sure
All
what we'll
right,
watch this time.
all right. I'll give that one a look.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Check it out. You'll love it.
But all right, man, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to share your insights. Again, I really loved the grinding story, and it wasn't like, oh, for this one season I grinded and then everything was amazing. You were relentless with it, as well as I really appreciate hearing about your growth mindset even at your age, even with all of your experience being winning best defender of the league. You're still, how can I improve? How can I get better? How can I maximize my potential? So I really enjoy that. Obviously, the fitness stuff is interesting to hear about because that's a little bit different dynamic than a lot of players might have experience with. So I appreciate you taking the time to share your story. And I hope you enjoy that pizza tonight as well.
Dude, I appreciate you, man. And just last little note too, it's funny you keep saying like I love when I'm in these conversations and there's like little indicators that my path is in the right direction, right? So I haven't talked about this yet, but I'll just drop it for you because dude, I love what you're doing and I love the insight you're giving young players and man, and like how you're very in touch with teaching your players the why. And so I'm building a bigger brand, bigger than Acosta Fitness, because you know, not only Acosta only is relevant to certain people. So I have a vision of building a bigger brand, and the next phase, so walk the talk is going to be the big thing that I teach and educate on for the next year. And then a year from now, we're going to launch the second phase of it, which is keep grinding. And you've said, you know, grinding multiple times in this interview, and that's what it is, man. And like, but I want to teach these kids, you're not grinding until you're walking the talk. You're not grinding until you're actually doing things right. And then it's a series of keep grinding. And then there's a third leg of the brand after that, but I won't get into that right now. But yeah, man,
I
I've got the
like it.
vision where we're headed. And so, man, to any of your followers, if there's anything that I can do to help, if you guys got questions, any nutrition, fitness, soccer related, non-soccer related, you know, I'm here to be a beacon of light, love, and positivity and growth. And that's what it is, man. And like, but I want to teach these kids, you're not grinding until you're walking the talk. You're not grinding until you're actually doing things right. And then it's a series of keep grinding. And then there's a third leg of the brand after that, but I won't get into that right now. But yeah, man,
I
I've got the
like it.
vision where we're headed. And so, man, to any of your followers, if there's anything that I can do to help, if you guys got questions, any nutrition, fitness, soccer related, non-soccer related, you know, I'm here to be a beacon of light, love, and positivity and growth. So any way that you know I can help you out or help your followers out, don't hesitate to let me know.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Much love.
All right. See you, man. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye.